With Mike Jeffries and Kanika Tomlin last week to review the juvenile diversion program that we've been working on all year so that we can go ahead and roll out in January. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to both the police department. We have Acting Major Paul McWade serving for the chief today, and also Mike Jeffries from the Parks and Recs department. They've done a lot of great work on this, so I'm excited for everybody to hear.
I think we both have some handouts that we'll pass out so that you have sort of both.
Thank you.
As Councilmember Foster indicated, we do have a pretty unique partnership. As the chief and I have investigated, we've not been able to find this type of program anywhere else in the country. And we'll go into the core components. We'll let the police department start with the actual interaction that they will have with the juveniles, and then once their coordinator has received the information from the individuals that have been involved, then we'll pick it up from there and get into the actual the Saturday of the workday and the social work component and the core elements as far as the core values that we've talked about. So.
Thank you. I'm going to go through, if it's okay, it'll take me like 2 or 3 minutes. I'll go through some slides and explain the kind of the program to you. I wasn't really privy to some of the changes, so I hope, if you stop me if you need to ask any questions on what I'm discussing here. St. Petersburg Police Department, we're calling this the Second Chance Program. It's available to minors between the ages of 9 and 17 and who are charged with any misdemeanor or non-forcible felony of the 3rd degree, and I'll define some of that for you. We talked about the primary objectives to redirect youth with swift and appropriate consequences. That's something we do better, I think, than even the county does, is when a child is brought into our program, we'll quickly, probably that Saturday or the following Saturday, have them over to Jeffers Group, where we can have them actually taking part in the program. So the next slide, I want to first talk about ineligibility. A juvenile will not be eligible for the program if they are charged with a forcible felony, and the next slide actually define that for you. Something that we had a lot of discussions about is some of these other things, auto theft. It's a big issue in the city right now, and we actually wanted, this might be one of the ones you're talking about, that is going to be omitted from our program. Now, that's not to say that if we do arrest a child and they go out to the county, that they have arbitrations where the child can go through their arbitration, but they won't go through ours. Any felony sexual offense, and going through some of the statutes like lewd and lascivious molestation, it's one of the ones that's not a forcible felony, but we thought with our program, at least in the beginning parts, it's not something we want to deal with. Firearm violations, domestic violence where future violence is feared or alternative safe living arrangements cannot be found. And that's actually a part of state statute. Again, that would be like if a child and a mother get into a fight, there's violence in the home, we can't put the child back in there unless there's other living arrangements, and I believe that falls under tough love with DJJ. Any currently on supervised probation, commission, or any other felony, a violent misdemeanor at the discretion of the supervisor. We wanted to kind of leave that open, and what we're dealing with there is maybe if we're afraid that there's something happened at a school, we don't want to take the child, fill out the paperwork, put them right back in the school. There might be a time where we wanted a supervisor involved where they say, no, this probably should go through an arbitration or something out at the county, not in the city. The next slide, we talk about actually define what a forcible felony is, and that's actually by state statute. It's treason, murder, manslaughter, sexual battery, carjacking, home invasion, robbery, arson, burglary, kidnapping, aggravated assault, aggravated battery, aggravated stalking, and you can kind of go through the rest of them. And also, we also put in there any other felony which involves the use or threat of physical force or violence against any individual. So what we're looking, yes.
I just had just a quick question. You got carjacking, on the other side you got auto theft. Now, it's been times people leave these keys in the car, leave the cars running, kids jump in them and drive off. Right. So is that considered carjacking, or
that's an auto theft, and that's not something that we are going to have a part of our program. Now, if they go out to the county, and not all the time, now, some of the things that have come out in our group is when we talk about like civil citation, here in our city we don't do civil citation, we do juvenile paperwork. We don't call it civil citation. Referrals. So we don't have to arrest the child for an auto theft all the time. we couldn't refer them to the county, and they actually, at that point, they do some investigative part of it, and they decide whether or not they go to an arbitration or if they're actually charged with the crime.
I understand. I know that there's a difference between them driving off with keys in the car and actually
Yeah.
taking somebody's car. So.
Yeah.
This is actually the actual definition of forcible
Right.
felony.
Yeah.
Right.
The goals, juvenile second chance, provide eligible offenders with an alternative to adjudication. Seeks to reduce cost, caseload burden on juvenile courts, the juvenile justice system, and the police department, and minimize recidivism among diverted offenders. I won't go too much into that because I think Mr. Jeffries is going to talk about some of those type of things. More on the strategy. I don't want to go too much into this. I know you want to talk about it, but the program, it's on Saturdays, 8 hours. Some will be picking up, and I know you'll be talking about this, picking up trash or help clean up parks, as well as counseling from ministries, from somebody from law enforcement with some expertise talking to kids. So I'll just kind of bypass that one. There's something we talked about in our group is restitution cases. It's kind of tough for us to get involved if there's any type of crime. Now, if it's like a petty theft and like candy is taken or something like that, hopefully we can get the candy back or whatever, and we don't have to worry about restitution cases. But for our case, we're worried about like the criminal mischief where $500 damage is done. We're going to have a problem getting the money back for the victim. So our thought on that is, again, we're trying to get our officers, this is the kind of case where there is, if there's restitution, either the parent or the child pays the money then, and we can take them on our program, or we, again, send it to the county. And the county looks at that and says, okay, they have actually a hearing where a restitution is brought out by the victim and paid by the family. It's not something we want to become involved in a collection of anything like that. So it is an issue we have. The juvenile arbitration program with the county is the one we talked to, and we came up with this plan that we would send that out to them. The last thing I kind of wanted to talk about was the juvenile second chance program. So if you look across the very top, I don't know if you've seen this before, the very top one is the first arrest, a juvenile arrest, whether misdemeanor or felony. They get to attempt at the second chance program, and if they complete it, the paperwork and everything just kind of goes away. There's still a police report in our system, but all of the arrest affidavits, the child's never arrested or adjudicated or anything like that. On the second arrest, they also go into the program, and hopefully they complete it, and again, the paperwork kind of goes away, all records go away other than a police report. Now, if they fail the program, they cause problems, they don't make it, they go directly to the court system, and again, the court system can look at whether or not they're available to go into their arbitration programs. On the third arrest, whether misdemeanor or felony, they won't be diverted into our program. It's a little confusing how it's set up, but that's pretty much the gist of it. First time misdemeanor charges, 8 hours. Second time would be 16 hours. For a felony, the first time 16 hours, second time 32 hours. So we're talking 8-hour days that they'd be spending with Mr. Jeffries' group. What I did bring up is just some of the statistics. Just wanted to give you, in case you had a question on it. In 2012, police department arrested 1,490 juveniles. Now, some of those are the same kids that were arrested more than one time in the year. According to information provided by the Juvenile Diversion Program out of the 6th Judicial Court, who is the arbitration group I've been talking about, 395 of our kids were diverted from our formal court system for that year. In 2013, 1,710 were arrested, and 381 juveniles were diverted. Now, in these numbers, it's kind of tough to find these numbers, but these numbers, again, the one I'm talking about is a civil citation, which is misdemeanor only. So we're doing misdemeanors, and really the only felony I think we're really going to be working with is kind of thefts, grand thefts, and those type of things. So we're thinking our numbers are going to be a little bit higher than the 381 and the 395. So we're figuring about 400 to 500 kids will be in our program is what we're thinking.
We're really excited, and quite honestly, this is going to be a very different program. Rick Kraft and I met with the chief, and we met with the deputy mayor, and we met with Councilmember Foster, and we really strategized on what the goals are. And so we've heard loud and clear that in this world of technology, once you have a record in the system, it never goes away. So our goal is to get in front of that. That's one of the goals. The second goal we've heard in our experience working with the thousands of kids that we work with, every child has a different story. So none of the offenders have the exact same story. So what we're looking to do is we're looking to figure out why is this child involved in the crime. So as we look at the strategies, we'll hit a few of the key components. The first one, again, it is an 8-hour program. At the end of my presentation, we'll go through a sample day so you get an idea of what's involved in that 8-hour. This is not going to be a walk in the park and a feel-good scenario. This is actually going to help me solve some of my issues with parkland and some of the maintenance issues that we have. I actually envision, and I've got some sample projects in the back, where we're going to remove air potato from Boyd Hill, we're going to remove trash, we're going to get in and actually clean restrooms. We're really going to make the youth that's involved, we're going to make them work. We're going to make them realize that it's time to get on the right path.
So when do you play basketball? No, just kidding.
So again, the second piece that we're focused on, every child may have a different story. So for us, when Jet Jackson and Rick Kraft and Lynn Bittner and Carrie Bittner and Mike Vineyard, all of us sat around, we really wanted to focus on the social work piece. And Steve, I'm reminded of your comments frequently that if we're just dealing with the symptom, then we're not going to have any long-term progress. So our goal is to have a social worker involved every Saturday with these children. And what we're looking for an informal dialogue where maybe we can get to the root of the issue. So if we've got a child who is not being properly fed or is not being properly supervised, we can get to that core issue. Our bigger concern is, now that we have this information from a Saturday, what do we do with it? So it's really, I feel obligated to figure out a way to share that information so further improvements can be made. Our goal is to, in essence, pass the ball off to the social workers at the middle school or the high school where these children are in classes. So we've got that component where we'll have an intake sheet, again, formal, just to get the wheels turning. And as we're out there working with them, getting dirty, we can figure out what's really going on in their life. The other component that we want to really focus on is we want to make the youth involved, we want to make them aware of opportunities that exist in St. Pete. So again, we all know idle hands, that if somebody doesn't have something to do, then chances are they can get in trouble. So we're gonna have spokespersons from TASCO and some of the programs that we have. We want to show them that, hey, you can get involved in something that's positive. Well, we all know, and I've shared this with you numerous times, we reach different children in different ways. So we've got some that are athletic, we've got some that may be more into theater, or some may be into crafts, or whatever the case may be. I'll remind you what TASCO stands for. It's Teen Arts, Sports, and Cultural Opportunities. So our goal is to sit down and actually have dialogue where we can say, hey, this is what we have. These are the options we have. At that point, we'll be able to share the job component that we have in TASCO, where, again, it's our goal to train future employees and make employees, or make these teens, these youth, aware of what employers are looking for. So we're looking to touch as many of the different components as we can. The other thing that we're going to do, and I'm really excited about this, we're going to, again, have the police department. The chief is committed to having police officers involved, out of uniform, in T-shirts, getting dirty, getting involved in the program. We're also going to have folks from different, the faith-based community that will come out, and even if it's a 15-minute chat about what it means to be a contributing member of this society, that's part of the discussions that we'll have. The other component that we'll have, we want to have some folks from different organizations in the community. They're already on board. We have adults that are involved in Men of Distinction. We've got folks who have been wrapped around the axle of law enforcement and who have figured their way out, and will be able to talk to these children and let them know what options are available, and again, how to be a contributing member of society. So in a nutshell, that's really what we're looking at. I'll go over some of the logistics. Again, I know you guys don't want to get into the granular detail, but our goal, there's some hurdles that we wanted to make sure that we didn't have. So one of the things that's very important to us, and the chief is on board with it, the coordinator that the police department spoke of earlier, the coordinator will actually deal with the child. So as I understand it, the child will be transported to the police station, and at the police station, there will be a coordinator who will interview the child, get information. We're going to provide our forms, our hold harmless, our data sheets in that packet, so that when the parent comes to receive the child from the police station, I don't ever have to deal with the parent again, because worst case scenario for me is a child who wants to participate in the program, but a parent who's not willing, able, or engaged. So we're looking to remove that hurdle. The other component that we know is a big deal in our community is transportation. So what we're looking to do, if you turn the page, we're looking to actually have 4 pickup areas that are geographically set throughout the city. Again, I can't take credit for all of this. This is, I think we've had probably 9 meetings at this point with all of our management team trying to figure out all of the pitfalls and the hurdles that were out there. So the 4 sites that we're going to pick, we're going with Willis S. Johns, JWK, Frank Pierce, and Jet Jackson Recreation Center. So the goal is the child will be responsible for getting to that location. Once the child gets to that location on a Saturday, we will have 2 vans that will go around the city and will actually pick the children up and take them to the work site. So again, we had talked about Boyd Hill, we had talked about Clam Bayou. We do have a rainy day plan. Our rainy day plan is the library. So Mika has a need for processing of new data, new material, refiling of material that's been checked out. So we've got that rainy day plan that we have kind of in the wings that we can use at a last minute notice. As far as the other programs go, just so you all know and you have a level of comfort, our goal is to, with the younger age, we actually are looking to keep the younger participants and the older participants separate. So that's why we're going to have 2 vans. So we have been very successful at keeping the high school and the younger kids separate. We certainly don't want to get into a scenario where we have any type of knowledge transfer, if you will, between the 2 age groups. So what we're looking to do is keep them separate. The younger group, we will treat them, even though this isn't a licensed child care program, we're gonna self-select to follow that licensed model. We feel it's a good model. We feel that it's appropriate restrictions. Again, that would limit chemical exposure right down to Windex, Clorox, that sort of thing. We're gonna avoid any of those types of issues before they even present themselves. The 2 work groups will then go to their areas. We've talked about different locations. We've got a list of great options that are in the city. We also have options that will pop up. So if we had a co-sponsored event the night before, the Friday night before, we'll be able to go out to a park and clean it. We've just got a lot of options, and the managers that have been involved in this from the Parks and Rec Department are really frankly excited about having the youth come out and participate in that work day. I'll go over staffing just very, very briefly. We'll have YEWs, which, as you know, are the youth development workers. Those will really be the folks that will be out there getting their hands dirty with the kids. The one supervisor, we have a supervisor who is going to coordinate the job sites, coordinate all of the commodities that we'll need to make this program successful. The last position, we have it listed here as an educational specialist. That is a social worker. So what we're doing right now is we're reaching out into the employees that we already have at this point, and we're also reaching out into the community to look for additional social workers. That would be great. I feel very, very strongly that if we have the wrong person handling this job from a social work standpoint, I don't want people that just want hours. I want people that are engaged and are committed to enhancing our youth and helping to solve a problem through some of the resources that are available, 211, whatever the case may be. We have some folks that are in our system already. I'll use Robert Langston as a prime example. He works with this type of youth already, and he's an expert. He's a trusted expert in this field. I'm very, very cognizant of the fact that Saturdays are difficult to give up. So I want to have a pool of folks where maybe a social worker, just works one Saturday a month. I will tell you all that if you have any names of social workers that you've interacted with, we would love to get that information. We definitely want the best of the best. That's who we're seeking. The other key component, we know that based on our schedule, if you turn to the last page, the sample schedule that we have here, we know that we're going to have them long enough that we're going to need to serve them lunch. and we're going to self-select to serve them a nutritionally balanced lunch. Again, we want to make sure that we're handling all of the issues, the dangling chads that are out there. We're gonna take this opportunity. It's not going to be, you know, a flashy lunch by any means, but it will be a nutritionally balanced lunch, the same lunch that we serve our participants during our summer program. So, again, if you look through the schedule, you will see that there is some definite sweat time involved in this program. And I think we're excited. We're ready to get going. Our goal is to hit this the second week of January, and very excited about our partnership with the police department. Our departments have always worked very, very well together, and I think this will just continue that relationship, and we can all be part of the solution. So, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Kennedy?
What if, when you're doing the intake and you're talking to the kid, you find out really domestic violence is happening at home? Take me through that scenario as to what would be offered to the kid and how that would work.
Well, I think it would depend as to where that information was gleaned. So if that was part of their intake and their coordinator, then I'm sure you would handle it through your normal operation. I'll let you speak to that.
Right, yeah. I mean, just like any other investigation, if something comes out like domestic related, we'd go further and investigate who the person is that's actually committing the crime. From there, we would look into other services for the family and handle it that way. And there's sometimes we get with juvenile services and the kid won't be able to go back to the home.
We actually, unfortunately, deal with this all the time with our participants, and we are obligated to report that information, and we would do that. And we would make sure that the youth would not be returned to a harmful situation. We have many different options that we've used in the past. The Juvenile Welfare Board has been phenomenal to work with when we run into situations like that. But we would be obligated to report to the abuse hotline if there was an abuse scenario going on. And then we would make sure that information was documented appropriately depending on the severity. Could it wait until Monday for the social worker at the school to pick up? If that wasn't appropriate, depending on what exactly was involved, each case is significantly different. Or we would tackle it head on right there on that Saturday. So that's something that staff, we're required from a licensing perspective to be trained and educated on how to deal with those situations.
Really exciting program. Look forward to it. Thanks.
So I'm just going to put two things out there before we continue with comments. If anybody's wondering where the program cost is going to come from, the savings from transporting youth will pick up some of this, as well as the chief has agreed to look at forfeiture funds. So I just wanted that to be out there.
Well, I think it's a great program, and I'm really anxious to see the results, and I think if it works the way we think it'll work, I think we'll see a big change. Thank you all.
Councilmember Newton, and then we're going to wrap up with Councilmember Gertis.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to address something about does it work. I joke about Jet Jackson and the half-hour basketball. Obviously, we didn't play basketball for 7 hours. No one plays basketball for 7 hours. And to my colleagues that think it doesn't work, I would render you this. When was the last time I sold you some crack? When was the last time I did a home invasion? When was the last time I carjacked you? I'm a product of this. I come from. Well, I'm just saying. I come from where these kids are coming from, and what it was an opportunity that I was provided to me that helped me realize my full potential. There's no way I would have been sitting here without the man to my right at 15 and the opportunities that were afforded to me.
Chair, I'll just ask you the issues or changes that you thought needed to be run by council before you rolled out. What were those issues?
It just had to do with the addition. I didn't want anybody to feel like surprised by this addition of a second-time misdemeanor or a first or second-time nonviolent, non-forcible felony.
Okay.
So I felt like, in respect to all of you who've been a part of this process, that we needed to make sure everybody was on the same page about that.
Okay, I appreciate that. And that may answer my next question. I was trying to understand if this is a subset of the civil citation program, or if the civil citation program is separate and distinct from the second chance program? I'm trying to understand the relationship between.
In talking to the chief as well as the arbitration group that we met with yesterday, if they go through our program twice, they won't be eligible for theirs. So it wouldn't be just in our city 4 chances, because they usually give 2 chances also. They would go through 2 chances with ours.
Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I'm talking about the city's civil citation.
So the city,
We had a diversion program, right?
so the city participates in this county program, and this is a supplement to that county program that's kind of a pre-diversion. So they're still eligible for all the same county services that every other city's participating in, but this is trying to prevent them from doing that. And one thing I'll just mention, because it adds to this context, is one of the concerns that some of our police officers have had with this, and they are now in agreement with this plan, is that when juveniles are not transported to JAC, the way our judges make assessments is there's a scoring system, and then you have to reach a certain score to then be detained.
Right.
When they're not transported to JAC, those scores are not then added, right? In this pre-diversion shadow system we've created, let's say for their 3rd non-violent, non-forcible felony, or whatever additional charge may happen, then those, let's say they had 9 points that were in this shadow system of ours, are assessed at that time.
Okay.
So it's not a free ride.
Okay.
But they're given this second chance, and then when they screw up again, they are assessed those points so that the full ramification of their penalties are assessed at that time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes good sense. I'm going to come up with an example that is probably wrong legally, but you'll get the gist of it. So a 14-year-old is out at night, they tag a building. So, maybe they get charged with criminal mischief, trespassing, vandalism. Let's say they get 3 or 4 charges. Do the charges, first chance, second chance, so is the first chance all of the charges that they were encountering law enforcement for, or if they get 3 charges, is that their 3rd chance? I'm trying to understand how
An event or a charge.
and is it an encounter with law enforcement, even though that encounter may have 4 or 5 charges associated with it, all of which are misdemeanors, but it's their first encounter with law enforcement, so it's their first chance? Or because there's 4 or 5 charges, is that their 3rd chance and their 4th chance? You see what I'm saying?
Yes,
Okay.
actually, it's a good question. We've actually had a lot of discussions about it, and we want to really go case by case on something like that. If there is quite a few, it's probably that child probably is not going to be eligible for our program, but they would be in the county, maybe.
Okay.
So it would be kind of a case by case. Most of what you talked about, if they're doing like criminal mischief, they can't go into our program because they have to pay for the damage they did, which is
my
not
next
something.
question.
Yeah,
Well,
not
that's the
something-
restitution question that comes up at night, is on a building,
Right.
that may be hundreds of, even in the thousands of dollars of damage.
Okay.
But then again, out at the juvenile diversion, out at the county level,
Yeah.
that may be able to be taken care of at their end.
Okay, but the fact alone, so if the crime had been different where there wasn't restitution involved, the fact alone that there's 3 or 4 charges with the very first encounter, it doesn't make them ineligible for this?
No, it does not.
Okay, great. Okay, so that, my next question was about restitution, because, somebody damages some property or whatever, and it's $200. Look, I'm all for this program. I want to fund a professional for you guys. I'd vote for that in a heartbeat. I'd vote to pay people instead of you getting them to sign up on Saturdays. I'd vote to pay for them, because to me, it's worth it. So I'm all for this. I'm just trying to understand how it all works, given a concrete example. So a 13-year-old walks into TJ Maxx, steals a pair of jeans.
Yes.
They've never been in trouble before, just decided they want a pair of jeans, whatever. There's no restitution, they give the jeans back, so all there is the theft charge or whatever. Store security gets them, holds them for you, you come pick them up, you take them down to the police station, is that what you do?
In most cases. Now, again, we're trying to cut back time that we actually, if they're all the way out at Tyrone Mall, we'd like the officer to have the form and maybe have the parents come there. We could do it
Okay.
right then and there. And the only thing we would need,
Trying to find out.
maybe a
Okay.
thumbprint to make sure that if the kid doesn't have ID or something, we talked about maybe doing a thumbprint on the back to make sure we have the right juvenile. And then release them rare. That paperwork goes to our expert that'll be handling it, and the next day, that person makes contact with the family, and it's all set up to make sure that they are scheduled for Mr. Jeffries' group.
Okay, good, thanks. Yeah, I'm very supportive, and like I said, I agree. Thanks to the chair for making this happen. And I would be supportive of funding outside of the forfeiture funds and outside of using savings to fund it, because I think it's important enough that we, and to your question, Carl, I think the success would be measured by if you're picking up 2 kids at Jet Jackson Center instead of 26 kids, and in 2 years from now, we're not picking up any kids, that'd be the deal. So, hopefully that'll. Thank you.
Great. I just want to wrap up thanking both Mike Jeffries and the Parks and Recs Department as well as the Police Department for working so hard to collaborate on this issue and bring us something that I think exceeds all of our expectations. And very excited to have a discussion in a couple of months and see where it takes us. But thank you.
Thank you.